Hi guys, I'm Stephen Douglas Smith. I'm a cinematographer and you're watching Fourth Take.
Hey everyone, I'm Mayra Castaneda and you're watching Fourth Take, where we show you the take you weren't supposed to see. In this week's episode, we chatted up with a cinematographer, then we give you our top 4 films in cinematography, and later we have a behind the scenes look at the new movie Creed. But first, before you were able to see his name rolling in the credits, he was pounding the Hollywood pavement. Stephen Douglas Smith gives us an exclusive sit-down one-on-one interview, and he talks about how he got himself in the Hollywood business and gives advice to aspiring filmmakers. Take a look. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Fourth Take. I'm here with cinematographer Stephen Douglas Smith. Stephen, I usually tell people thanks for stopping by our studio, but we're here on location in your beautiful home in Los Angeles. Just want to thank you for having us.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yeah, sure. So I have to ask, with a name like Stephen Douglas Smith, you know, you always want to make a name for yourself here in this entertainment industry. Why Stephen Smith and why Stephen Douglas Smith and why not Stephen Smith?
Well, having a name like Stephen Smith is obviously pretty common, so just try to make myself a little more unique than the other Stephen Smiths out there.
Right, and you definitely have. And for people at home, with a title like cinematographer,
Yes.
What's a typical day for you?
A typical day on set would be, it starts with, reading of a script and understanding what level of a project you're photographing, basically. Mm-hmm. Cinematographer is responsible for many things, and depending on how the director likes to work, can take a much more active role in deciding lens choices with cameras, working with the talent and wardrobe and production design and lighting and camera and grip crew to create the images that come out through the photography itself and the words on a page, basically. It's converting the words on a page to something that is emotionally responsive to an audience member.
Right, so there's a whole bunch that goes on that we don't see.
Sure, absolutely.
Right, and I know you mentioned you're from Los Angeles,
yes.
And a lot of people come and make the move to pursue, the entertainment dream. So you're pretty lucky to have that advantage to be from here and not make that move, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California and went to school in San Diego, and then eventually went to UC San Diego and went to USC Film School for graduate school. So I ended up coming back to Los Angeles and going through the school program there at USC and continued on making films.
Right. It is such a tough business. Were your parents, family supportive of you?
Absolutely. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a dental hygienist. So I come from a family of doctors, and they didn't encourage me, but didn't discourage me from medicine. So I took a path of what I really enjoyed doing, which was being behind the camera and photographing, starting off doing still photography, and eventually getting into movie making and filming feature films and documentaries and such.
Yeah, can you talk about that process? So you mentioned you started off with still photography. Mm-hmm. How did you finally kind of build a name for yourself?
I built a name for myself through various avenues, starting out as an assistant, camera assistant, learning the ropes from some very talented people who had been doing it for a long time on some big movies. Basic Instinct was one of the first movies that I worked on, so I was able to see kind of the inner workings of behind the set of a big motion picture that was done at the time with Sharon Stone.
Oh, nice.
And really just learned through my craft by shooting other things. I got hired while I was doing that movie to go shoot a documentary for another USC grad who contacted me and hired me for one of my first jobs as a cinematographer, as a director of photography. So from there I went and just started shooting and never kind of looked back.
Right. So do you remember that first time you saw your name on the credits?
Yes.
How was that?
The first time I saw my name in the credits was just invigorating. It was so delightful to know that I was behind something that magical in creating a story from a page to a motion picture.
And I know you worked on so many movies. What are some of those movies you worked on that people probably have seen your work on?
Well, Basic Instinct and Scary Movie 5 was the last big theatrical film that I shot. Dinosaur was a movie for Disney that I worked on, which was a unique process. That was an animated picture, but I was hired to shoot all the background, so I worked on that for 2.5 years through the animation department, and eventually worked with the animators and designers and effects people to help create that, multi-million-dollar blockbuster, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, with Scary Movie 5, that movie, those movies are really outrageous. How was shooting that?
That Scary Movie 5 was an interesting project. I mean, the whole process behind writing and scripting that is something that's very timely. And we started out in one direction with the story, and as we progressed through the shooting of the picture, the writers are continuously writing and making changes to update it. So that was a challenge for me with regard to keeping up with the way things changed and the way we had to kind of emulate other motion pictures that the franchise sort of revolves around.
Right. So what can you tell us, I guess, the process you go through when picking and choosing a film you want to put your name on?
Yeah. Well, it all starts usually with the script. I'll get a script through my agent, and I'll read through what particular genre it is, and usually I'll kind of base things mainly around the script. I don't like to be pigeonholed and not shoot, one particular type of genre picture. So I try to open myself up and be open to shooting other things other than just comedies, like Scary Movie. But usually it just stems around what's on the page for me.
Any memorable, events or situation that happened on set that you're just like, oh, I can't believe that happened?
Well, when I was doing Dinosaur, there was we were close to Cape Canaveral, so while we were filming, the space shuttle launched off behind us, and so we quickly turned our cameras around and filmed the space shuttle going off, just as something fun to do and kind of a once-in-a-lifetime kind of experience. It was kind of off in the distance, but that was kind of unique, something that happened to me while I was filming.
Right. So, I'm sure from the point you are now, it's been a long time in the making. So for those people that are pursuing this, what advice would you give them?
The best advice I could give someone pursuing a career in cinematography is go out and shoot as much as you can, and build a reel that is able to show your talents, basically. Because there's a lot to going into cinematography and photographing a motion picture other than just pointing a camera and at somebody. You have to create kind of an experience for an audience member, and that can be done through the way you light it, the way everything that's put in the set and on camera that you're filming matches with the the hint of the story or the way the story should be told. And there's many different ways certain stories can be told, and my opinion is as important as everybody else's opinion on the set who collaborate to making that picture.
Right, and I know stuff with like online tutorials and YouTube. A lot of people are using those tools instead of actually going to film school. Is that something you advise or support?
I mean, it's if you have an opinion, I think that's important to be able to go and shoot and make mistakes.
Yeah.
I was able to go to film school and had the liberty to in a film class to go out and they encourage us to go out and make mistakes and see what works and what doesn't work from a photographic standpoint, which is sort of the way that I directed my studies there at the school. So that was a neat experience.
Nice. Is there any director or actor you are just dying to work with?
Oh, there's many. Yeah, I don't know if I'd just put my finger on one.
Your top three.
Top three directors. Robert Zemeckis is probably the closest that I could say as someone that I'd want to work with. Spielberg, obviously. And they're doing pictures that I think, warrant not just necessarily blockbuster works or franchise pictures, but they're doing pictures that mean something and are significant to the art.
Right. So can you watch a movie without critiquing it, taking off your cinematographer hat and just actually enjoy it like the rest of us?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Can I enjoy a picture and take off my cinematography hat? Yeah. If the picture is really good and engaging and has me from a story perspective, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I can take my hat off and kind of look at it and watch it and enjoy it, which is kind of why I got into the business, because I enjoy watching movies, but at the same time I enjoy filming them as well. But if the story is engaging enough for me to kind of sit back, then I'll kind of forget about my craft. It's hard not to if the movie is not very good and tends to be a little bit boring per se. Then it's harder to kind of take my hat off from my craft and not start to look at other things, the way it's edited or photographed.
So was there a particular film that kind of like made you realize this is what I want to do?
I don't know if there was one. I don't know if there was one particular film that made me think of taking on cinematography as a craft, but I think all films were pretty much influential, in my formative years. And then as I got into knowing different crafts and what people do for a living in the business, then, there were some artists probably who influenced me more with regard to what I do as a cinematographer, more than just one particular movie. Yeah.
So if you were stranded on an island, right, and you had one DVD or VHS, depending on when the movie came out, what would it be?
Oh gosh, probably Forrest Gump is one of my favorite pictures.
A good one.
Yeah, I enjoy watching. Groundhog's Day, I guess, would be another one that, is one of the top comedies I think in town that have been filmed. I guess that would be, relative to being stuck on a deserted island with watching Groundhog Day over and over again. So
makes for a good time. So how have things changed from when you first started to now? Because with filmmaking, there's always just something coming out.
Yeah, well, obviously the way films are being done now, from a digital perspective, that's initially what is probably the most different. And when I started shooting film, editing, by hand, cutting the negative, and I learned all that. And that was a good experience because it gives you some perspective on the new things that are being done nowadays with digital photography and digital editing and other things and such.
Yeah, I know, because my background is in news, and like my old news directors would be like, "Oh, I remember when we used to edit film to film."
Sure.
I'm like, how did you guys do that?
Yeah.
Like, can you unsnip? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, well, once you cut negative, you're stuck.
Yeah. Alrighty, Steven. So moving forward, what's next for you?
What's next for me is I have a script that I just got from a friend of mine, Jackie Kong, who's a well-known director. and she's done some horror movies, and she does comedies. I think she's more known for her comedies, but this script is set in Vietnam. It's about the Vietnamese War and pokes fun at the Vietnamese War in Vietnam and situational comedy.
Right.
So that's what's next for me. So
that's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much for letting us invade your beautiful home here in Los Angeles.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah, and I
to
wish
be
you
here.
the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you on camera as well.
Thanks.